Hey, it's Andre and it's time for an unboxing and build. This is the Freewing BAE Hawk T1A from Motion RC, and I'm quite excited. So I've already opened it once to look at it, but we're going to do the build up. I have the upgraded landing gear and a few tech tips that were given to me is about making the plane that much better. So here we go, opening time. Hey. Ta-da! So like I said, I did open it up before, so I got rid of all the plastic bags. Just basically inspecting it after shipping, because it's always something you want to do with the box. The packing setup is actually quite neat and quite well done and clean. And excuse the noise in the background, I'm busy printing off a Spitfire project. So multitasking today, since it is the Canadian or the Christmas long weekend and going into New Year's. So here we go. With no further delay, let's pull out the wings and have a look at them. So there is a spar piece, a hook piece, which is for fishing all your cables through, so don't lose that. Of course, the manual and some odds and bits, which I've already put into my bin, along with the upgraded landing gear, which is probably the first thing we're going to get into. Whoops. Little drop tank, but we're not going to worry about that right now because that can sit quite nicely inside the box. The wings, which have flaps and ailerons and the gear already installed, all 4 servos, quite neatly packaged and ready to go. So naturally we're going to have to open up the landing gear, the serverless retracts, and swap that gear out. So we'll put this aside for now. There's a vertical stabilizer and horizontal stabilizer, which is kind of neat because it's got 2 individual elevator controls. So I've already worked the surfaces out when I was inspecting it. I really like the color. Obviously that's why I went with the red one versus the gray. And it just seems to go together really well. I have watched the video from Motion RC on the assembly when that was pretty basic and straightforward. But like I said, I will be doing a couple of the modifications, which is kind of nice and handy to have the unassembled aircraft at my disposal to do the landing gear upgrade, because unfortunately the nose piece, you do have to pop off that front cowl piece right here. So without further delay, let's get rid of this foam packaging, and we'll go from there. So look at this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful airframe. It is really nice and clean. It's got an 80 amp ESC, a 12 blade 70 mil EDF motor, and it runs on 6S. And it is quite well set up, I have to say. Nice spring load. I will be running XT90, so I already have an adapter to go from the EC5 to XT90. Long term I'll clip that, but I usually wait before I do any upgrades and make sure everything's working. I will probably put in the tack material that they recommend. Motion RC doesn't, they like the non-slip stuff, the garage material, and I do have that, and I'll probably do that later on, or just put down Velcro. The center control is kind of neat, and that's kind of handy. So you just run in your RC, your receiver. I'm going to go with an FrSky 6-channel. I do have the stabilized one. I do need to test it. I've never flown with the stabilized hardware from FrSky, so I will do some tests. I don't think the aircraft actually needs to be stabilized. I just bought the receiver at the time, so I may just end up going with a generic 6-channel. But I would like eventually to do telemetry for the battery voltage and stuff. So lots of long-term goals. I guess the unfortunate part of this whole build is the aircraft will actually sit idle because we're in the middle of a nice deep freeze winter, and I don't foresee myself flying this thing before May, which is kind of unfortunate, but I'm glad to have it in my possession and part of the fleet, and my first real big EDF. We know about the F-16, but this is just going to be another step. So, all right, I guess what we should do is grab my cloth for the bench and then get into removing that front piece and getting that front landing gear installed. So yes, as I said, I watched the the Motion RC video on how they pulled off this cowl and everything, and it's just basically popping the glue and you get in there underneath, and I guess there's going to be a little bit of carnage. I will use some foam tack to get it back underneath, but the ultimate goal is to install the uprated landing gear, which I had purchased. Again, spring loaded, so it should take my flying a little better. So obviously the wings are pretty easy. The hard part is getting in to the nose and removing that stuff. So here we go. Oh yeah, look at that. It just lifts. Use my nail, my finger, just run along and pop the glue really gently. Even a popsicle stick, I bet, would work underneath there. The idea is not to deform the plastic itself too aggressively, so I'm going to go and find a popsicle stick. Stir stick, here we go. A little coffee stir stick. Worst case, I have some of those nice plastic pieces, those for doing laptop service or tablet services, which would come in handy. Do the exact same thing. Again, I'm just going along and minimizing any kind of scarring that could occur to the exposed foam. The underneath foam we don't really worry about too much because that stuff you won't see once the cover's back on. And I'm just slowly working my finger in there and just popping the, there we go, there's one side, popping the glue points off. So it's actually pretty easy to do. And work it from this side. Oh yeah, once you get in there, work it from the inside and just very carefully, trying not to put too much tension on anything at one point. Not stress the plastic too aggressively. Ta-da! Pieces off. So basically the gear is a mimic of the other one, but uprated obviously with a little bit more shock and give. So first thing we gotta do is release a few components. So we got a screwdriver in there. All right. So we're into it. Basically you're gonna remove your top mount and some of your servo extensions and anything tying this bad boy down. There's a servo obviously in the bag which drives the steering mechanism, and they're basically mimicking each other. It's a little tie-in, clevis tie-in, you'll see as I pop everything free, and that will loosen it all up, and a nice big support plate. So get a nice screwdriver and in we go. Okay, I'm just removing the servo arm completely, the whole mechanism, and that'll make the whole thing come out a lot cleaner. Little screw, don't lose that. Pop the arm off. Okay. Guess it would help if I disconnected the actual servo, huh? So this is leading up into here under the clip. And it looks like it is the bottom wire harnessed. Just release that tab here. Gear, 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 gear. Yep. Right gear. Released. There we go. Oops, pop that piece off. That's only taped. Huh. Maybe we'll add some better glue to that. All right. Without further delay. There we go. And all I have to do is release this guy. That. And that standard landing nose gear is now a spare. Wow, that's in there. There we go. Okay. So this guy goes in. This guy sits like this. That sits like that. Everything can be tweaked and tuned once it's installed. It's nice to see they put the little hose pieces on the clevises. That's always one of my gripes with suppliers. Why don't they just take that extra 2 seconds and supply us with the content of the material? Just ensure maximum success. Alright, twist that over just there. I'll have to zero everything, but that's pretty easy to do after the fact. Alright, run the line in. In the Motion RC video, they said they didn't take long. In fact, they were doing it at the field with an assembled aircraft. So obviously the wings are on and everything's in the way. So with everything out, I'm basically threading everything back in. I apologize for the camera angle, but I'm not running multiple cameras doing this. I think it's a little too crazy. So that sits flush down, that sits down, and just work that all back into the positions. It should all be designed to go back into its original spots. Nice. Okay, that sat in there really cleanly. And then I get that pressure plate back down. I'm going to put that in. And the last thing I'll do is I'll worry about the linkages for the zeroing everything in for the servos. Screwdriver. Again, when I put down screws, I like to do them in crossing order. And not sink them down all right away. Spread the load on the plate, and then torque them all down. I guess this is the advantage of doing the gear upgrade with the aircraft, as I said, unassembled. I don't have an elevator or rudder or anything like that in my way. The wings aren't in the way. And you can kind of just work your way through the aircraft without bumping and scratching stuff up. So it is a nice upgrade. I think they're about $50 or so if I recall, and I just decided that maximize my success with the aircraft. And I know the way I come in, and it's like in my golf game, every once in a while I grease a good landing, and then every other landing is just terrible. So I figured I would enhance my odds of success. Cool. Man, I just got to get all that in there. Okay, now I can straighten this guy out a bit. Okay, that went in nice and straight-ish. I'm going to do a little bit more tweaking on the steering mechanism. Get that as straight as possible before committing to that. Looks like I could come out a tiny bit. 1, 2. Again, I could actually just grab the servo and center it if I needed to. A lot of this you'll be able to adjust after the fact. There we go. Down it went. Nice. I have a woohoo. Okay, little screw. There we go. And this guy is hooked into the rudder as well. So what we're going to do is really quickly, I'm going to put that in. Center that. There we go, nice and centered. There's your steering. Centered. Looks great to me. Excellent. Okay, let's close up that. Cool. A little foam tack and we're back in business. I'm really going to just quickly run all the servo leads back in. This goes into your rudder. And this guy gets snaked back through and hooked into the gear. And it's such a nice aircraft that I'm going to be really crazy about making sure my wiring is nice and clean. All right, a little bit of foam tack, and this guy will be back in business. I'm literally going along right where the original glue ripped out. Put in a good amount, squish it all around after, so you get good adhesion. Trickling along the back, there wasn't a whole lot of glue back there. Good there. The idea is we want this thing to seal down nice and tight and not lift off or get any kind of wind under it, obviously. Because that'll just create drag for no good reason. I love foam tack. Whoops. That should be good. That should be more than enough. And I'm just going to put that aside, let that cure, and I'm going to work on the landing gear for the wing before I start the rest of the build process on the body. Stick the cap back down, move everything around a bit, get it all to sink in, mesh up nice and clean. Voila, there we go. And I like how they have the little notch there so you can do all your fine tuning and adjustments, but that is on nice and clean, none the wiser. Sweet, great. I'm gonna let that sit. We'll put that body aside and I'm going to work on the wing pieces next. Nice, cool. All right, switch to the other servo. Landing gear. They're all labeled, which is really nice. So the key is on the front, so I'm engaging that first, and then back Allen key in the back. Great, and then I will dress the wiring down nice and clean, trying to avoid the spring mechanism from getting too close. I may come back with some hot glue and just help seat that all a little cleaner so it doesn't get in the way. Two. Three. Save those in case you ever need a temporary replacement. If you've damaged one, well, you just switch back to the other gear until replacement parts can arrive. One. 3, and 4. And then here we go. Landing gear. Nice, in sync. Great stuff. While I'm on the wing, move all the actuated servos, and I may just actually go around and actually install those. And we center them. Yay, they're centered. Okay, great. Centered. And we'll do the same thing with the flaps. Wings. Well, I've got it out here on the bench. They don't really tell you to do the wings ahead of the time, but while I've got it on the bench, I decided that that's exactly what I do. And I discovered in the bag is that little piece of anti-slips. That's fantastic. And a whole bunch of spare little pieces and everything too, and a bunch of spare screws. Well, not spare screws. Screws you're going to use it, but you know, a couple extra horns here and there, which is really nice to see. It is a big thing to people when they're putting their aircraft together, just to have enough parts. So, setting all that aside, I'm going to go in and start building. Let's start with the flaps, and they tell you which push rods they are. And they are the longer of them. They've got 3 sizes of flaps, push rods here, sorry. 86 millimeters, and they've got a 55, which is on your ailerons and rudder, and then a 67, which looks to be the elevators. 2 elevators, that's right. So, 1, 2, 3. So these 3 are the same. Aileron, aileron, flaps and flaps. So there we go. So, and I'm actually going to do this right here, and they tell you in the book, this is something that's awesome with manuals when they're done correctly, what hole each piece goes into for optimal flying. So example, flaps is number 2, ailerons number 1, elevator number 1, rudder number 1. Wonderful. Isn't that like it's just a novelty at times? So let's get this done. Two and 2 on the flaps. All right, well, actually, we're going to do aileron since we're there. And that is a 1 and 2 on the control surface. So of course, everything will get fine-tuned once the controls are actually in place. Flaps is number 2 and number 2. Okay. Yeah. So they've, rather than doing a servo reverser, they've engineered it so the servos are flipped. Cute. Okay, so now we're going to go back down to 90. So next is the fun part, and that is fishing all this wire through. Basically, you're going to drop in the horizontal stabilizer, the rudder, and then you're going to fish those cables through, and then you're going to do, the elevator, then the rudder, and then you're going to fish them one at a time. So this will be interesting. fun time. So we dump all these cables in, 2 elevator cables, and they go in, looks like through this slot here, and then you just keep fishing away. Not bad. Okay. Green tape. Just enough to hold everything down. Yeah. Seems to be coming along. Get in here, you can assist it, and through they went. Yeah! That wasn't that hard, actually. Nice idea. Okay. Can't mention just how good and important it is to have a decent servo controller. Tester. 150, okay, and these are my 2 clevises. Elevator is 1 on the servo horn and, well, 1 on the push rod, because, well, it's there we go. Cool. It's good, great, clean. All right. Rudder, 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 rudder. It is 1 and 2. So 1 on the servo rod, control rod, and then number 2 on the actual control surfaces. That looks about right. Again, all this will get fine-tuned once assembled, but the idea is just to have everything on there as we go through. No, that can be loosened out a bit. Not bad. There we go. Centered. All right. Fishing time. And that comes down, and there's a hole right in the center. So we're going to fish our cable through again and get that into a decent spot. This one will take a little bit more cleverness, I think, because you have to go through the hole and then get to it. Just try not to pick off any of your other cables, right? Oop. It comes right out of the hole. So there's the rod. A little piece of green tape, and we're in business. A little bit long. I put this one this time just before the bend. Wrap the cord around a few times, the actual cable, and then you gotta encourage the servo horn connector down into the hole. And then once it goes through, if you've hooked everything nicely, everything should feed along. Nice and gentle. There we go. And cut on something. There we go. Great. Didn't do too much twisting or anything like that. Just like the elevator. Secure it down. I'm going to go back to my reference points. I don't think there were any glue. No glue. Okay. And then just clean up that tape. Look at that. Nice. All right, so that takes the 6x8, which are the smaller screw, a bag of 4 here, and the other ones for the other pieces. So it's a smaller screwdriver. I have my magnetic screwdriver right here handy. We're going to go in and lock down those things. I'm probably going to go through and add a little glue to a few spots of the white tape. Switch to a better driver. Oh, look at this thing. Look at this thing. This is starting to look pretty slick. It's almost sad that I have to wait all this time to fly it, but it's going to be so worth it. I'm very tempted to grab a red Sharpie marker next time I'm out and just to hit a couple spots that are, exposed white. I mean, things are going to get marked up over time. I'd consider doing, I've never done that sealer. A lot of people use the Minwax Poly sealer that just kind of keeps the paint nice and fresh, but I'm of the mindset that I can survive some carnage here and there. Again, this is my first assembly of a Freewing product, and so far I'm quite pleased. Obviously, I see some stuff where some tape or glue on a couple little pieces, like particularly the white tape. I'm going to want to just go in there and just keep them clean. Everything looks good. I'm looking at the areas where the elevator seated down, and that looks pretty clean and everything, but there we go. So, okay, so I routed the rudder cable underneath the battery bay section, just like the elevator section, and it's gone into the blue flight line box, into the associated rudder position, and there we go. I now have my rear control surfaces all wired in. The next piece of thing you're going to want to do is grab some reinforced packing tape, the rib stuff, and you're going to go in on the intakes as well as the bay. And I'm going to try and illustrate this as best as I can. I've actually already gone and done it, and it's pretty easy, but what they're reporting is along the seam line here is if you have too many hard impacts, the glue is letting go. So one of the tricks is to put a little bit of reinforced tape, and it's pretty good to go. So I've just taken 2 pieces of tape, and I've very carefully edged them inside the intake, right in there. I'm not sure if this is going to focus in, but you'll get the idea. And then the same thing on the inside. And I've gone back with my screwdriver and a knife, and I've cut little reliefs just to make sure everything's nice and flush, because obviously the airflow is in there. So literally take your screwdriver and a little knife, and just if you pick up a piece with your finger, slice it, push it in, make sure everything's nice and flat, no way to be picked up by the incoming airflow, particularly on the intake. The fuselage section, it's not so critical. So that's all I'm doing right now, just making sure those areas are nice and clean and flat, and minimizing any kind of disruption to my airflow area. There we go. Just like that. Get in there with my finger or a screwdriver and just push that tape down nice and level, and it's all good. Just take your time, and everything lays down really cleanly, I'm noticing. So I've got 2, like I said, it's just a couple pieces of tape, and it's going to make all the differences. So there is the fuselage assembly. I now have that nice refinished piece. I was just told too through social media that if I go in there and drill this area out just a bit, or even clip it out a little bit, you don't need to remove the actual cover to do any servicing for that servo or the front gear segment. So that is really good news. So the only other piece of gear to work on now is to install the wing. Okay, well, this assembly is almost done. I have gone in and installed my receiver just for fun, not running off the main throttle package, just to check everything out. And now we're at the point where we're putting the wing into the airplane. So it is coming along quite nicely. Again, the recap, I put in the rear control surfaces. I've added some reinforced tape along the glue lines here between the fuselage sections, and now we're about to drop the wing onto the aircraft, which will make it a plane, I guess. So we have those screws sitting around waiting, and it's just 4 screws. After that, the instructions go on to tell you all the little bits and pieces and the scale details, and screw them in and glue them on. So I'm basically will get around to that, but for now, my concern is just to put the wing on and have a finished aircraft and check out all those control surfaces. Again, our completed wing. I'm using some zip ties, but I'm not going to go super tight. I don't want to crimp anything. I'm just kind of giving it something to contain the wire with. Okay, let's see how well this goes. This will be interesting. One option too is to simply unscrew that bed. I wonder how hard that is. Unscrew that whole flight deck, battery bay, and then drop out and pull those batteries up. Actually, that might be just a way to do it. Screwdriver. There you go. There's my top tip. Look at that, I'm even stuck underneath there. Okay, that's how I'm going to do this. I'll just put those 1, 2, 3, 4 screws are there. Great. Flip this thing back over. And now all those wires are going to go in together nice and neat together. Actually, no, they're not going to go, but these are going to get clipped together. I'm actually going to put those 3 together on a zip and keep them separate. That way, if I ever detach the wing, they're all kind of wrapped together nice and neat. There you go. 3 zip ties makes all the difference in this setup. So this now, we'll go through, and I may, nope, I'm not going to add one more to this because I'm going to need that flexibility to move stuff around. And on goes the wing. Very gently, lock it down into position. Check, make sure everything's clean, everything's going down. I don't see any, just screws, 4 screws, do not over tighten, there's no glue. Great, and it uses the 2x6x10s, 2.6x10s, these guys. And in they go. Again, I'm going to do my I'm just going to put one down. I'm not going to go too tight. And then I'm going to pull opposite corner, not too tight. Okay, I think we got this. I don't like using this stand too much because it does darken my foam, I find. Doesn't look too bad. Still got a little bit of a gap there. Okay, let's do it this way. Let's put a little load to it. So you're just basically going around and smart screwdriver, tightening everything up little by little. They say do not over tighten these, and I agree. Okay, I would say that's not bad. That's solid. They ain't coming off. Okay, so I'm going to actually hook the landing gear in to the receiver back, and this is where, turning this around, this is where putting that, taking out that plate is really handy. I now can get in there very efficiently and put that down, don't put the screws, and I can run all my wires really cleanly, really quickly now. In we go. Drop the battery bed down. Great. Make sure it is sitting flush, not rooted by any cables or trapped with any cables. Okay, that looks really good. Okay, so these screws are going down really nice. Again, if they get too loose, a little dab of glue won't interfere too much with any of that. So, okay. There we go. All right. Have to reset those. Up, down, right, left. Cool. Gear responds, and flaps need to be programmed a bit, but I can deal with that after. Excellent. There we go. We have almost a set-up airplane. Cool. Drop tank is next. Like this, and you engage, slide it back. Battery. Big honkin' success. That should take care of my CG issue. Yeah, I don't have a charge on this battery, so I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm just doing a run-up. Cool! Wow, what a stunning looking airplane. I can't wait to fly this thing again. This is the Freewing BAE Hawk T1A aerobatic airplane, the Royal Arrows, the upgraded suspension on it. Again, everything is from Motion RC. I've got some nice 6S packs to run through it. Again, I have to wait till the spring to fly it, which is going to be absolutely torturous, but it just looks great. It's going to look fantastic just sitting here waiting, and I really am going to look forward to flying this. This will be one of my bigger EDF experiences, I think, for 2018, and I'm super pumped. Thanks for watching the build video. Yeah, it's a long, tedious one, but again, once I fit on all the little bits and scale bit pieces and everything, she'll look complete and everything. So if you have any questions, fire away in the comments. Thanks for watching. Have a great evening.